Some businesses see success in one country and they think to themselves, hey, why not expand to other countries? So they go to their local 3PL who they've been working with up until now and ask them how much would it cost to send this same product to a customer in another country. And then the 3PL gets back to them with some unaffordable price, and that puts an end to their dreams of expansion. But it doesn't need to be that way. In this video, we're going to go through different ways to expand to different countries and what to consider depending on the characteristics of your product and business. So there are three ways that you can expand your business to other countries from a logistics perspective. We've gone through one already, which is just shipping directly from a local 3PL where most of your customers are already based to whichever country you want to expand. Now, the problem with this is that it is a little bit too expensive in most cases. If, for example, you're sending a package from the US to the UK, it's in most cases going to cost more than if you're sending it from China to the UK. So you're going to have to pass on that shipping cost probably to your customers, or be left with very little profit, if any at all. And if you are not a huge brand with a very unique product, in many cases those customers are not going to be willing to take on that shipping cost, and so it's not really going to be worthwhile doing. The next more viable option is to work with a 3PL in the countries that you're looking to expand into. The great thing about this is that you can have local shipping times, which is awesome for customers, but the difficulty is that you'll have to invest money in enough inventory to send the products in bulk to each of those countries, and then you're going to have to manage each of those countries, every bit of inventory, taking into consideration different freight shipping times that also fluctuate over the year. So it's a bit of a pain to do if you do not have the resources for that, if you're doing everything yourself. But a good example of a company that does have the resources to do that is the Yudi by Davey Fogarty. I believe they're still manufacturing from China, but they're sending to different countries, local 3PLs, and fulfilling from there, which obviously works great for them with the team they have. But not everyone can do that, and not everyone wants to risk a fair amount of money in sending inventory to a local 3PL in a country where you're not even sure the consumer is super interested in your product, which is where the third option comes in, and that is direct to consumer shipping from China. The great thing about D2C shipping from China is that you do not have to buy loads of inventory in advance because the lead times are short, and the international shipping times are pretty fast and affordable too. For example, you can ship to the UK or France in 3 to 5 business days, to the US in 4 to 8 business days, and to Australia in 4 to 6 business days. Now, there are some instances in which it makes more sense to fulfill from China, and in other situations better to fulfill locally. So let's go through some of the more common situations. Firstly, if you are testing a new country for which you aren't sure if the product will do well or not, and your product is already manufactured in China, then why not just send it from China? It's less risky to fulfill orders from China rather than sending a whole bulk shipment to whichever country you're looking to expand to. Secondly, you need to consider the size of your product and the weight as well. So the smaller and lighter the product is, the bigger the advantage you're going to have shipping from China. But if you have a larger or heavier product, then it's more likely you'd actually save more money overall by shipping in bulk to a local 3PL and fulfilling orders from there. Thirdly, if you are always cash flow constrained, then shipping from China just might make more sense because you don't have to invest as much money in inventory ahead of time due to the lead times being so short. It's going to take days for your product to arrive to the Chinese 3PL from the manufacturer, as opposed to potentially weeks or months if you're using sea shipping to an overseas 3PL. On the other hand, if you are not cash flow constrained, then you might just save more money in the long run by shipping a heavier product by sea to a local 3PL, especially if you already know there is demand for that product in the country you're shipping it to. Unfortunately, it is impossible to cover every potential situation though, because as you can imagine, there are lots of variables to consider and each business is different, but hopefully that does give you a good overview, a good base from which to start thinking about what your business should do. and what factors to consider when making your decision. Overall, you will probably want to avoid international shipping from Western countries where you can, unless your customers are willing to take on that burden, that cost. But there's no reason why you can't expand to other countries, either by using China fulfillment or local fulfillment, depending on your situation.